Honestly, I'm sure what gets most people involved was I love dogs, and it was like a way that I could have a dog on campus. Having done it, I would not recommend that as a reason to get involved.
Guiding Eyes for the Blind, in general, is a national organization that raises Labrador puppies and German Shepherds. From birth, they have a breeding program all the way up until they're about 2 years old or so, and then they give them to blind individuals to be their personal guide dogs.
A raiser gets a puppy typically at 8 weeks old and has them until about 18 months. Sometimes raisers get them at other ages also, but you have the puppy the entire time. It's your puppy. You have them, they sleep at your house every night. You take them home on breaks. They're yours.
On campus, our chapter is called Guiding Eyes for the Blind at Ithaca College. We are part of the puppy raising program, so we get dogs at about 8 weeks and raise them until they're 16 to 18 months, and do basically most of the formal beginning training, just getting the dogs to be responsive and to connect with a certain individual or a certain group of individuals, to listen, to do certain commands that they'll have to do whilst with a blind person, to get used to different socialization situations.
It's a 24/7 job. You have to put so much into it. I mean, as a mom and as a dog raiser, I've had several, like 9 dogs in my life. The way that you have to pay attention to these dogs is not the way that you would raise your dog. So if you notice on campus, when you follow one of these, you'll watch the little dog check in, and they're looking at their raiser all the time. So as the raiser, you've got to be on top of that and tell the dog that they're doing the right thing. Good job, you see them being treated all the time. Good job, well done. And it is exhausting.
As a sitter, we're basically there to reinforce what the raisers do. And, we go through the same training, so we know all the same commands and all the same house manners and all the same stuff that the dogs need to know how to do and need to be working on. But we take a lot of direction from the raisers. So, for example, I sit a puppy on campus called, her name is Wisdom, and I always make sure to check with her raiser every day, like, okay, what does Wisdom need to be working on at this point? Because as they're growing, it's constantly changing. Like, they go through phases, big time, of like, all right, well, Wisdom right now really needs to be working on settling. She, sometimes will try to bark, and we can't have that, so let's go into an empty classroom and sit and try to get her to settle down while I do homework or something like that. Or maybe she needs to work on walking outside with the blowing leaves as a distraction, or other people walking by. It could really be anything, and it's always changing. So we're there to really just reinforce what the raiser's doing and to give the dog exposure to working with someone else, because although they will be matched with one blind person for the rest of their lives, like, they still need the ability to work with anybody else. They can't just be really attached to one person. It's still hard sometimes to just be connected with a dog that you don't work with as much, or even if it's your first time sitting, maybe you've never met them and you're like, hey, pay attention to me, I promise I'm exciting, but they're like, I don't know who you are. So trying to get that connection there can be difficult.
But a lot of people think like, oh, a cute little puppy, but you don't realize you're up at 7 in the morning, you have to feed her, like walk her, all this stuff. And I know like a big part of it is like, even if I have tennis and I'm exhausted, I still have to come home and like play with Gingy, get her out, doing things like that. Like, there's always someone else that's depending on you, and it's very different.
The hardest part of training them on campus is the fact that there are so many different things that the dogs can be exposed to. Some dogs really like to chase leaves. Some are like really overwhelmed by tons of people touching them. We have issues with dogs sometimes not wanting to walk down like busy hallways because we have people who do drive-by pets. So we work on being able to handle stuff like that. It's actually really great for them to live on a college campus, because they kind of get like a leg up on the dogs who live in the community because they're already exposed to so many things at once. I am on my 2nd dog right now, and I have loved every minute of it. I've never second-guessed wanting to raise either of them or be involved in any capacity. We have such a great support system with lots of other raisers and trainers and sitters. Having such a great support network makes you realize that you can do anything and you can continue and you don't have to give up.
They're like one of your biggest priorities, and there were a lot of things that I wasn't able to do because I had a dog, but I never really regretted that. It was just that it was just different.
What is the college experience? It's what you make it. And this has been my college experience, and I don't regret it at all. This is what I wanted to do, and I wouldn't do it if I didn't want to do it.
Giving them up, you put your whole heart into these dogs. Like, a lot of people think that we like have a disconnect from them because we know we're giving them up, but that's not how it is. Like you build a very strong connection with these dogs because they're with you all the time. And in order to put the work into them that they need to be the best guide they can be, you have to love them. And so you put a lot of love into them, and giving them up is so rewarding, but it's very difficult.
I mean, I know that it's way less difficult for me than it is for the raiser because I no matter how much time I may spend with a dog, I will spend less, significantly less than they do. But there were a couple of dogs that I definitely made deeper connections with over the past few years. There was one dog that got released earlier, like before she even took her in for training test, and I didn't know that she was gonna do that, and it was over Christmas break. So like when I had like said goodbye, I didn't say goodbye forever. So I actually drove 3 hours one day to see her for 45 minutes and then drove back. My mom was really mad at me, but it was worth it. God, I love that dog.
Yes, it is very difficult to give back your dog, but it's also one of the most memorable and amazing moments because you realize they're going on to do something amazing. You're never going to forget them. They're never going to forget you, and hopefully you're going to see them become something amazing in their life. If you're doing it right, if you are raising your dog correctly, you are going to put every ounce of your heart and soul into raising that dog, and your heart is going to break when they leave, and that means you did it right. That means you taught them everything that they needed to know, and that means you gave them every ounce of love into the world, and hopefully they become guide dogs. But if they don't, it's okay.
The best parts of this program, I guess that you get to give the gift. At the end of all of it, you get to give the gift. And that's sight, so to speak, to a person who may not have it. That's confidence. And knowing that you were part of that, that's pretty powerful. The dogs are, the bonus because they love you and they think you're just great.